205 and 226.
5.
Can you do a welfare check with number 401? You're just going to check on Maurice Goins. He has not been seen or heard from in a week.
You guys just stay there on the web, and we'll take care of it on the side.
August 1st, 2021. A warm Sunday morning in Lakewood, Ohio. That was the day 53-year-old Maurice Goins was reported missing. His close friend Morley hadn't heard from him in days, and something felt off. Concerned, he called 911, prompting officers from the Lakewood Police Department to conduct a welfare check at Maurice's apartment.
Every day. Last day I heard from him was Monday night. Was the last day. He lives on apartment right here. That door right there, apartment 4.
At the scene, officers were met by the man who had called, Morley. He told them the last time he spoke to Maurice was on Monday night. Since then, he'd been calling, knocking on the door, but there was no answer. No lights, no movement, just silence.
That's downstairs? Yeah, all the way. To the left?
Left.
So when we started checking the apartment itself, we knock on the door like we normally would. There's no answer at the door.
We'll check outside.
So we started going outside, checking the windows.
These are his? Hello? Lakewood Police! Hello? Got that? Nothing really to... Nope.
We're fine, they'll be here. Not waiting to South Detroit.
Go in.
That more right behind the door. Yeah.
Die.
We're in front of 1433. What the other is?
Police department!
One of the officers entered the apartment through a window. As soon as he got inside, he sensed that something wasn't right. He opened the door for his partner, and together they found something disturbing.
Look at this.
Water running.
No, what is that?
I'm sorry, by your son, the other half.
Just be careful.
Okay, that's there.
As soon as you got in the apartment, there was giant pool of blood in the kitchen. Looked like somebody had been dragged through the apartment.
Ready?
Sure.
That is not good.
Did you get that? Yeah, let me step across. Yes.
Go ahead. Good.
Go ahead. Just check the water off.
There was a bathroom that was right off the kitchen, and you could hear the water running. So that kind of took our attention from, is there actually somebody still in this apartment? Did they hear us knocking and then they just forgot to shut the water off?
Sure, you guys had a date.
Officers next turned their attention.
Officers then opened the bedroom door.
Dude. Shot.
I don't know if they shot him up.
16 Senate squad up here.
There was a body laying in the bedroom. It appeared he was face down.
More officers arrived shortly after, and the crime scene investigation began.
It was a particularly gruesome crime scene. There's quite a bit of blood in every area of the apartment.
Started seeing when I came down through here, I turned around, hopped down. I see this, and there's blood dragging.
I've been on many scenes, death scenes, and unfortunately, this one was very gruesome in comparison.
We found a knife left next to the victim's head. It was obvious that he had been stabbed in the neck.
Right.
There were some puncture and incised wounds to the left side and front of his neck right here.
Break this stuff down.
Officers also noticed bloodstains on the couch and across the floor, indicating that the body had been dragged from the living room to the bedroom. But among all the signs of struggle, one clue stood out: the shoe prints left in the blood on the floor. They had a very distinct tread pattern, consistent with a pair of Converse Chuck Taylor All-Star sneakers. Outside the apartment, officers began speaking with Morley to understand more about Maurice, his daily routine, his lifestyle, and whether anyone might have wanted to harm him.
With this guy? How do you know him?
We used to work together many years ago. I don't work there anymore. I met him through there, and we stayed constant. Like, he was friends, like, we talked and everything like that. Phone and stuff. He used to go watch them play baseball and stuff like that.
Okay.
He was actually kind of fidgety, and he appeared almost nervous, or like you could see that he didn't seem settled.
No reason someone would want to come over here and rob him, steal anything you can think of.
Morley also mentioned that Maurice had a big television when they often watched together. Officers took note of this, as there was no TV inside the apartment. They also photographed Morley's shoes, quietly acknowledging that he was their first potential suspect in the murder investigation. Back inside, detectives continued to comb through the apartment for evidence. They found a walking cane tucked beneath the couch, something that didn't seem to belong there. Nearby, they noticed an empty space in the living room where it looked like a television once sat. The TV was gone.
Okay, this TV, that seems to match this like stereo down here.
It's a Panasonic TV remote, so I'm assuming your TV is a Panasonic.
There was an RCA cable behind there. It almost looked like the suspect, when they stole the television, may have grabbed it by the cord and yanked very hard on that just to get it out of there quickly, and left in a hurry. That television was probably one of the few things that could easily be stolen and sold quickly, either on the street or at a pawn shop or somewhere else, to get some quick money.
Where do you that?
But the door was left dead bolted. You know, your typical burglar doesn't particularly care about locking up after themselves. So it seemed a little strange.
With no solid information in hand, officers began speaking to neighbors. They started with the woman who lived in the apartment just above Maurice's.
And he was carrying that thing on. I guess I never gave it no thought. I just assumed the guy was selling it, you know?
Right. So the guy that you saw, was it a white guy or a black guy?
He was a white guy.
Okay.
She told officers that on the day of the incident, she was downstairs doing her laundry when she saw a white male, likely in his 50s, with a goatee, dressed in all gray. He was carrying a large television and walking out of the building.
This was a big moment for the investigation, and so we were getting pretty excited that, you know, whoever this was who walked out of the apartment with his television is our probable suspect here.
While officers were still searching for the man seen carrying the television, the autopsy report on Maurice came in.
The report indicated that there was 11 wounds between the head and neck, 3 wounds to the chest, and 11 total on the hands. So obviously the hands to us indicated some defensive wounds. The 2 major wounds were one to the jugular and one to the larynx. Obviously this was a brutal scene. The act itself of stabbing somebody is a personal act, close space act. So that led us to believe that Maurice knew who had stabbed him.
Time was passing, and detectives still couldn't solve the puzzle. Who had killed Maurice? With few leads and growing pressure, they turned their attention to Maurice's colleagues from the local restaurant where he worked.
So you're here. Let's talk about Mr. Goins.
Yes. So I have information. I don't know if it will be useful or if it won't be useful. It really got me thinking. You know, I started thinking about all the memories that we had, and when I worked with him, we were really close. You know, he would come in and he would tell me about his personal life and his life with his unofficial boyfriend, and you know, we'd share stories back and forth. And one thing that really stuck out to me and that bothered me, well, speaking of the situation and the situation with him and his unofficial boyfriend and his unofficial boyfriend's wife.
What's his unofficial boyfriend's name?
She identified Maurice's boyfriend as Morley, the same man who had called 911 and was present outside the apartment when officers arrived.
He was friends with, like, we talked and everything like that, phone and stuff.
I definitely know what he looks like. He used to come up here and there, but there were several times when we were speaking and we were speaking about like, oh, if, you know, his wife never found out. There were several times jokingly he said, you know, if something were to happen to me, you know who did it. So that really stuck out to me. And as I kept thinking, I just kept imagining his face and him saying, and it really, really bothered me. And he made that comment more than once.
Now, why would he say something like that? Was it because their relationship was violent?
No, it was because nobody knew about their relationship. And I could sense from him that he knew that it was a risk that he was taking. But it just really concerned me. Now that this had happened, it makes you think that that could be a motive for
Absolutely,
something to happen to him. And then I kept thinking like, okay, well, what if I'm the only person that knows about his relationship?
Right.
So I really felt that it would be useful to at least come talk about it.
There's some truth
You know,
to it.
exactly. Like, they don't say it just because. They say it because they know some type of risk is involved in what they're doing.
Officers now realized that Morley had never mentioned anything about his romantic relationship with Maurice. For the detectives, that was a red flag. They called Morley back in for another round of questioning.
You said you talked to him Monday night.
I talked to him Monday night.
At this point, we confronted this person with our knowledge of this relationship.
And I'm not judging here. You and Mo were partners, sexual
Yeah,
partners.
yeah,
You guys, okay.
yeah.
And at that point now, this person did confirm the fact that they had a relationship.
You didn't tell me that either.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, you forgot to mention that. That's. I just want to confirm that.
Yeah, but since I got married last August, we just was like best friends on the telephone.
He didn't see that it was that relevant because his claims were that this relationship had ended a long time ago, so that drew a red flag for us as far as he was concerned.
Officers didn't find anything concrete from Morley. They took his DNA sample and let him go. A few more of Maurice's friends were interviewed, but again, nothing. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Nearly 10 months had passed, and the case was on the verge of going cold, until one day, a call came in from a convicted inmate. He claimed he had something to say about the murder of Maurice Goins.
Listen, I don't know whether this is true or not. I'm just telling you what I was told. Okay.
The informer claims another inmate confessed killing Maurice.
I just didn't know who it was. Okay. You know, so we were talking, you know, just having a regular conversation, you know, and then he tells me that he killed somebody. So I'm like, wow, what happened? And in short, as he explained it to me, someone was trying to stick him, so he grabbed a knife and stuck them. This person ends up dying. So it's like, who was it? He said it was right off of Detroit Avenue, and that it was a black guy. Okay. He didn't say how he looked or what his age was, just that it was a black guy. And that he was trying to rob him, trying to take his money for some drugs or whatever. Okay. Never really said anything about like where he had stabbed him, just that he was bloody and that he had to get out his clothes or whatever.
The story that they told me was very credible. We went from being stone cold dead in the water to going 100 miles an hour within a day.
What was the guy's name? Charles Muscatello.
And it turned out, the man the inmate named, Charles Muscatello, was already familiar to Lakewood Police.
I was astonished because I had literally just dealt with him on the street. I think it was a petty theft call at one of our businesses like 3 days prior.
What's your last name?
Hospital.
How you spell it?
You guys. C-A-T-D-L.
And your first name?
Charles.
Let's see, you look familiar.
We had dealt with Charles a few times. He was very mild-mannered during every one of those things. Not aggressive on the street with us at all, in any way, not just physical, but verbal, always compliant. Never a problem. There was no indication whatsoever he was a violent person.
Officers located Charles Muscatello and brought him in for interrogation. But without a confession, they had nothing solid. No DNA, no eyewitness, no weapon tied directly to him. If Charles didn't talk, they'd have to let him go. This was their last chance.
I can advise you, you're right. It's, let's go with 848. I'm sure, I'm going to tell you what this is about before you make up your, make your decision whether you want to talk with us or not. Obviously, we want to talk to you. We have some questions, and a lot of what we talk about has to do with how we're proceeding with other people involved in this, including your wife. So the long and the short of why you are here.
Tell keep it real. You already know because I can tell by the way you're looking at me. You keep looking at me.
No, I keep looking at both of you guys.
I wasn't sure if he was ever going to talk about this case.
I have a warrant for your arrest for murder.
You had to know eventually this was coming.
Murder. I understand.
Well, we'll explain it.
Well, you explain it.
Bring it up.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
I know they got him.
Who is it?
I don't know his name right off.
You don't know his name? At first, he tries to deny and doesn't even act like he knows who Maurice is. Doesn't even say him by name. But there comes a point, and it's very early on. I mean, his body language to me was very telling from the beginning.
You don't know his name?
Because he did sexual favors for each other before.
So you would know his name then?
I know it's like Maurice or something like that. I don't know his last name or anything.
That's okay. Well, you know him as Maurice.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's something more that I need to know, now's the time. Okay? So, that being said, do you want to discuss this and give me your side of what occurred here?
His shoulders were slumped. He was pretty much sitting forward. I just felt like he was on the verge, almost from the beginning, to just tell us. I got to believe that this is weighed on you like a ton of bricks. And I've got to believe that over this time period, Charles, you probably have been feeling like you're drowning, okay? Trying to get this off your chest. But the only way to do it is to now come clean about it. I could see it on your face. That's when I thought we really had a chance to get a confession.
Understand something, Charles. You need to be truthful with us.
Let's start from the beginning.
He invited me over.
Okay. In what way? Explain. How did he invite you? He called you on the phone.
Yes.
Okay, so he invited you over.
Yes, sir.
And then you walked there.
Yes.
Okay, then what? At that point that I had leaned in, I knew he was going to tell us what happened. Then what?
I wouldn't do the things he wanted to, so he would press me. And then I tried to move away from him. And I just got scared, and he grabbed me, and then he tried to get me first.
What do you mean he tried to get you? You gotta try to be as descriptive as you can.
Okay, here's a steak knife.
He got a steak knife, and he tried to get me with a steak knife, and I grabbed it away from him, and I went like this, and I...
Where did you get him?
Like right here.
What happened after you got him?
Yeah, I had a drag. I drove him over to the next room because I didn't know what the girl was scared.
So you got him here?
Yes.
That's
it? He kept trying to grab me, and I kept trying to push myself off of him. And then I grabbed him like this to push myself away from him.
Did you stab him more than once?
No, so I didn't. I grabbed him by his neck like this.
You didn't stab him any more times than
I went like
time?
this. I don't know if he did or not. I just threw a sheet over him and I left.
That's not the full story.
What about your shoes?
The shoes they didn't have nothing on them.
Are those the same shoes?
No.
What kind of shoes did you have?
I had a pair of Converse on.
Converse, like Chuck Taylor's?
Yes.
After admitting that he murdered Maurice, Charles also confessed to taking the television. He said he needed quick money, and that was the easiest thing to steal and sell.
I watched enough of these stories to know where it's going to go.
Charles Muscatello was charged with murder, aggravated burglary, and aggravated robbery. He pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison. For the Lakewood Police Department, it was justice finally served. And for Maurice Goins' family and friends, a painful closure to a tragic loss.